G'day, it's Pete here, and today I wanted to take you on a trip down memory lane. I just moved house and I uncovered a box of some of my old bridge trophies. Here they are, and I wanted to show the highs and the lows of some of the events that I actually went through with this. But before we do, here I've got a lead problem for you. So if you get this right, you win the tournament. If you don't, you come second. This is the final board. And the question is, what would you lead on this auction? You've opened a spade, and it goes pass, and your partner bids a no trump. The next hand doubles, it went pass, 2 diamonds, pass, and it went 3 no trumps. What would you lead? Post in the comments down below. Let me know what you'd actually do. But I'll go over what actually happened a bit later. So I want to go over my journey as a bridge player. It all started back in 2004. That's when I actually learned bridge. And I got put on the youth team for the state straight away. And the question, was I a natural prodigy? The answer was no. The first year that I played, we came second last in the Interstate teams, and as a pair, I came third last. So for a very first year, I didn't, I wasn't the absolute bottom of the barrel. So, maybe there was a little bit of an inkling there. But my first real taste of success came a couple of years later. And this is because I got sent away for the under 21s. They had schools World Bridge Championships. And here, when we went away to this, this was over in Thailand. It was one of my first trips away. And in the under 21 section, we actually managed to qualify equal second in the round robin. And it went straight into semi-finals. And in that, the winners, Israel, picked us. Yay, joys. And they convincingly thrashed us. Then in the bronze medal match, we played Poland and got convincingly thrashed again. So in my first Worlds away, I would call that a success. We actually finished fourth. I had quite a few fourths throughout the World Youth, but so I just want to jump back to a story of the national that's closest to where I live. It's called the VCC, or the Victor Champion Cup. And it's just in my local city. And this is one of my main experience of playing open bridge. And the very first time I played this was just a year after I'd learned in 2005. And when we played, we came 6th last, which, again, you have to start somewhere. And then we came back the next year in 2006, and we came 16th last. We came 52nd out of 66. So not too bad. We're improving. And then I sort of steadily got into the middle of the pack. And then I managed to get myself on some good teams. And I've got some stories here of some VCTs. I have a bunch of these. Some silverware there for the VCCs. And I've got a story of how it feels to come second. And I have some really joyful seconds and some miserable seconds that actually come out of this event. So back in 2012, I was on a pretty decent team. But we just started disastrously. Halfway through the event, we were in the middle of the pack. We're in the peloton. And basically, with 4 matches to go, we scored nearly a perfect score. I think we dropped 2 VPs over 4 matches. And we skyrocketed into second. And first was so far ahead that they were a match ahead. So there was no chance of ever getting to first. So coming second out of nowhere felt amazing. It was a really joyful second. Then the next year, 2013, I was on a slightly different team. And after 8 matches out of 10, we were comfortably in first place. We were 22 VPs clear of second place. This was in a 25 VP scale. And the way that this tournament worked was there was a 10-round Swiss, and after it was played over 2.5 days. So this was the end of day 2, and then going into the third day, there's just a half day. So we're feeling pretty comfortable overnight. Then comes round 9, and the second place leaders gave us a solid beating. We got 6 VPs out of a possible 25. They got 24, and they closed the gap down to 4 VPs behind us. Going into the final round, we had a big win. We got 20 VPs. But they got 25. and they jumped us by 1 VP. So this was a story of a really sad second place. So the same event had a really joyful second, and then this following one was a second out of nowhere. It felt like the tournament just got stolen from us. This is a story of not counting your chickens before they hatch, because this event felt like it was ours. I have a vivid memory of standing behind someone who was just looking at the scores, and I said, "Oh, how did the Hollands team not win?" And I was literally just standing behind them. I was like, "Oh, are you serious?" And then after that, had a drive. We were driving for 8 hours. So I got to spend 8 hours in a car just being absolutely miserable that this tournament had just gone away. Anyway, the following year, same event, same team. We're now the Hans team. After 8 matches, we're winning again. Not by the huge VP margin that we were before. It's dropped down to a 20 VP scale this year. But we were leading, and that's important. We had the night off, and we're like, let's not do the same thing as last year. Come round 9, disaster struck. We didn't get completely crushed, but we are no longer in first place. We dropped down to second. But we rallied, we got there, and we had a big win in the finish to actually jump into first place. And I got my first win in the Victor Champion Cup. So I have a story of a few silvers and 1 gold. I had a silver that was fantastic because I came out of nowhere to get it. And then a silver where I felt like, how did I not win the gold? And then we came there for the 3rd year in a row and won it. And interestingly enough, I have another really interesting silver in this event, which is a bit surprising, which actually came in 2019. So I was now on the Chromai team with just a bunch of friends. And this was the year that I was actually captain of the Australian mixed team. And I only played the first day of this event, and we weren't really coming anywhere. We were sort of in the middle of the pack. And then I flew off to an international competition. And then the team rallied and actually came second. So they had a really good showing. So I got another silver where I was part of the team. I left and then they succeeded without me. And while I was overseas, everyone was like, "Oh, well done, Pete, on your second. Good job." So that was my 3rd silver in the VCC. So this is my local national. So a wide array of feelings that came from that. Now I want to backtrack to some of my youth era. So here I wanted to talk about the Interstate Youth Pairs. It's actually an event that ran for a while and then they stopped it. I managed to win it 3 times in a row and then they're like, "That's it, that event is done." So in perpetuity, I will be the winner of this event. So in 2007, 8, and 9, me and Justin actually managed to win the Interstate Youth Pairs. But this was the final year it ran, and there was an interesting story about it. And here, we were feeling pretty confident because we'd won the previous 2 years. And then we played the first session of this final and we scored 68%, a massive score. And the way this was set up was there was 1 session at night and then the following day there was 2 more. So I was like, "Yep, we've won it." The story comes of me counting my chickens thinking, "Oh yeah, it is fantastic." We then went and thought, whatever, we've basically got a day off. So the next day I actually rocked up with a hangover. I was feeling really ordinary. Come session 2, we scored 49. And overall after that, we were no longer leading, even though we'd scored 68 in the first session. I'm like, oh, wow, I really have to pull my finger out and actually start playing well. Don't assume you've won these events. If only I'd actually remembered that a few years later in the VCC. But then come session 3, we had another good session, got 62 and we won it. So we won 3 youth pairs in a row and then the event was over. That was 2007, 8 and 9. In the interstate youth teams, I came second last in my first year, as I mentioned back in 2004. It took a few years before we actually got some success there. It took until 2008 before we actually won it. And we managed to win it 2008 and 2009. Then 2010, we actually came second. After that, I actually went and stopped playing the youth events and actually went and played the Open. And in 2011, I had my first ever win. I say first ever, my only win in the Open ANC Interstate Challenge in 2011. And then in 2012, I got a second as well. And then in 2013, this was my final chance to play youth. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play the Open. I'm going to go back and play the youth. And my teammates on the Open are like, why? What are you doing? Best decision I ever made. Playing youth events is just so fun. I absolutely loved it. I came back and we won in 2013 as well in the State vs. State Challenge. Some of my other youth events were the Pacific Asia Championships. It's sort of Australia, New Zealand, and sort of all of Asia sort of playing off and seeing how you can actually do. So in 2007, in the Pacific Asia Championship, it was my first time playing there. And the team consisted of sort of one experienced pair, just their final year playing youth events. And then also me and my partner and the other pair were in the under-21s team. So quite inexperienced. The way it was playing, the experienced pair basically played throughout and me and the other pair were sort of alternating. But we were doing so well. Coming with one match left to go, we were like almost locked for the win. We were like 23, 24 VPs. Now, I think you've heard this story before, back in the VCC, thinking, yep, okay, we've got this. Anyway, the pair that had been playing throughout got to have the match off. All we needed was 2 VPs to actually make it so that we'd won this event. Anyway, they were sitting out and we were playing this on ViewGraph. And partway through the match, we were only scoring 1 VP. We were getting absolutely trounced. So much so that the captain and one of the players was like, we can't watch this. We can't watch this. So they went to the bar. They were not watching it anymore. They had to stop. They couldn't exist through that pain of watching us play bridge. Anyway, we managed to rally and actually come back with a massive, 4 VPs. So in the old scale, you'd get they would get up to 25 and you would score 5 VPs and they would go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So if you scored 5 or fewer, you were maxed, but it depended on how bad it was from there. Anyway, we got maxed, but we scored 4, which was enough to take out the Pacific Asia Youth Championship, which was awesome. I don't have them anymore, but these were these massive trophies with these rocks on them, and they looked really cool. But I managed to lose the rock, so I gave away the trophy there. Anyway, and then following that in 2007, me and one of the players from the Experience Partnership actually played the Open pairs together afterwards. And we managed to come 3rd in that. It was really cool. It said second runner-up. It was my first time doing that. I'm like, hey, we came second runner-up. But that was my, I think, first and only time playing with them. And that was just a cool result that actually came from that. In the Pacific Asia Championship, we played a few more times, and I also won in 2009 and also 2013, my final year there. Jumping into World Championships, though, we already looked at my first one of those where I was playing in under-21s where I came 4th, where we came 2nd in the round robin, and then the leaders were like, we got you, and then ended up coming 4th. Well, in 2012, we were playing in the World Junior Champions, and this time in the round robin, we came 3rd. But come the semifinals, you guessed it, the leaders picked us, and they absolutely crushed us. And then after that, in the bronze medal playoff, it ended up pretty close, but we went down to China there. So I had another 4th in the World Juniors there. Then the following year, in 2013, this time in the semi-finals, we managed to get up by 4 imps. We were comfortably ahead. Then we had a 15 imp loss in the final stanza, but we still held on by 4 imps. But there was a rather controversial board that got taken to the directors and they deliberated. So after the match, they deliberated for I think 2 hours talking about this, trying to work out a particular board. So I'll show the board here. And basically 6 clubs was played by North in both tables. We were the table that managed to beat 6 clubs. So here I was West, and we beat 6 clubs, 1 trick. At the other table, our teammates managed to make it. And the interesting thing was this is played behind screens. So North and East can see each other, and South and West can see each other. And I'm a bit sketchy on the details, but they had an auction where North got to bid hearts and then jumped in clubs later to say, yeah, I've got a really strong hand. They wanted to force the game, and then North-South bid on to slam. Now, one of them said, yeah, game forcing natural, at least a 5-5. The other one said on the other table, game forcing natural. And what the deliberation was, is it essential that they had to volunteer this information that it was a 5-5? There was no questions that were actually asked. Just North on one side said, yes, I'm guaranteeing 5. On the other table, they said, yeah, natural and forcing. Anyway, when it came to the play, the defense went something like ace, king of diamonds, and North had to ruff. And when they led a club from the south hand, this West player played the 9 of clubs. From Jack 9 fourth, this is a false card where if they're in an 8 card fit, declarer will have to guess who actually might have 4 clubs to the Jack. Now, here they're actually in a 9 card fit, so there is no actual guess. But what happens later is in hearts, you actually have to play like ace, king of hearts and ruff a heart. Your entries are a bit shot to the north hand. Now, if you don't play the 9, when it goes ace, king of hearts and they have to trump a heart, they actually have to trump it high, and then they can actually finesse clubs. But this 9 is important for preventing them actually being able to stay in the south hand. So the false card here of the 9 actually cost them a trick. So this Jack 9 fourth is like a really important false card that you should be doing in lots of spots. But this was one example of it actually failing and managing to give the contract away. Anyway, they deliberated and they let the score stand. So we managed to get through, and we were into the finals, which we eventually lost. But we came second in the World Youth Championships. And then to follow it up, we also came second in the border match team. So we got 2 silver medals in 2013. So that was a definite highlight in my bridge career. Then on to one of my best wins I've had, which is winning our National Open teams. It's one of the major tournaments that we've actually got here in Australia. And the story of this was there was a team of 4 that then managed to get Ishmael Del Monte onto the team. And Ishmael Del Monte was well regarded as the best player that Australia had at the time. But he was sort of known for being a bit prickly and tough to actually play with. And they're like, who should we get to play with Ish? And the team settled on, you know what, who's a good partner? We'll choose Pete. We reckon he can actually play with Ish. So I eventually joined the team, and we went on to win the National Open teams. And I want to put it out there, Ish was actually a really good partner to me. But here, I've got a match from the semi-finals, which was really close. We ended up winning by 3 imps. But there was a particularly interesting board I wanted to highlight that I've got vividly in my memory. So I've got this hand, and you might think it's pretty routine, and it goes pass. North opens 2 no trumps, and they probably play there going down. Now, I actually had these thoughts from playing Youth Bridge. I had this desire, this story of a creative psych that I actually wanted to do. I wanted to try and psych against my opponents twice in 2 different ways. What I wanted to do is have an auction go like pass, 2 no trumps, and open 2 no trumps when like some really weak hand with like, 6 diamonds and a void heart and just like a weak 2 in diamonds or something. And just hope that the auction goes 2 no trumps, pass, 3 diamonds, transfer to hearts, all pass, and you just drop it. And then the opponents have to work out what to actually do over that. Now they'll probably double and bid on to 3 no trumps because who knows where they'll go. But then I wanted to follow it up with a second time that I wanted to psych, where I had a genuine 2 no trump opening, but I psyched by passing my partner's transfer. So I wanted the auction to go pass, 2 no trumps, pass, 3 diamonds, pass, and I just pass it anyway, even if I've got like 20 points. Now, I was probably planning on being a little bit weaker, maybe like 15 or something, opening 2-no with a strong no trump or something. And then that final hand having to work out what to do, and then they'd bid, and then you'd actually double them. Anyway, a bit of a story behind this crazy idea I actually had. Anyway, this auction goes pass, and it goes 2 no trumps, and looking at this east hand, I was like, I'm favorable. Are they actually psyching against me? And then I realized that's crazy. They're not psyching 2 no trumps. This match was really close. And there's no way they would try a psych in that position where they're up just a little bit in this really tense match. But then I looked at my hand. I was like, even if they're not psyching 2 no trumps, I just don't think that they're ever making 2 no trumps. I've got 3 aces, which gives me lots of control. I got these queens that look like a couple of tricks. I got these jack 10 and diamonds, which looks great. And I just know that like all the points are between us. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to double them. So the auction proceeded double, and I went pass, redouble. Let's try and get out of here. I went pass, 3 clubs, and they bid 3 clubs trying to run from that. So after my double, I think South actually redoubled. Anyway, they ran to 3 clubs and my partner doubled it. And then they redoubled to get out of there, and they ran to 3 hearts and my partner doubled that again. So we managed to double them in 3 hearts. But importantly, notice this West hand. They made 2 penalty doubles with no points. Have you ever seen that before? Anyway, here we are. We got plus 500 on like what appeared to be an absolute nothing board. And we went on to win this semi-final by 3 imps. So I've always got this in my mind, and like just doubling 2-no here, maybe a bit crazy, but I got led to this by first thinking, did they psych? And the answer to that was obviously not. But then I thought they were still in a bunch of trouble anyway. So we went on to win the semi-final, and then we went on to win the final there. And this was a great result for me, winning one of the major nationals in Australia here. And then another important tournament was the Spring National Open Teams. And this is where this original hand actually comes from. So what did you actually decide to lead? Well, here, I'll open up all the cards. I opted to lead the 2 of hearts. At the other table, Ishmael, in the same seat, same auction, chose to lead the Queen of Diamonds. And here, if I go back, to beat this contract, you have to lead a diamond honor or a club. Either of these is good enough to actually beat 3 no trumps. The heart was not, and they managed to pick up a handy game swing. And they managed to go on to win that. They did actually have a carry forward of 14.1 because they absolutely demolished the qualifying. But they didn't win by that. So in theory, we beat them over the final, but not enough to overcome the carry forward. But really interesting one for the final board there, trying to work out what to actually do. So I got a silver medal there in the 2014 Spring Nationals. Back in 2015, we came back and came second again. So I had a couple of silvers there. One of the other tournaments that I did pretty well in was Interstate Butler Championship. So this was just a pairs competition, which in 2013, I managed to win a very, very close final here. We both had the same net imps here, but we managed to take it out there. And then I was back again in 2017, this time playing with Michael Ware from New Zealand. It was the first time we'd played, but we managed to win pretty convincingly. One thing that I remember from this event was how cold it was on the first few days. So basically Canberra had like this freak cold spell where it was actually colder than our snowfields, which is like extremely rare in Australia. And also the playing venue we were at actually had the heater broken. So you'd see people like rugged up in snow gear, heavy jackets, gloves, beanies, everything. They were just absolutely just packed in with clothing. It was the coldest I'd ever been playing bridge. It was so cold that like I'd have a can of Coke, and instead of going inside and finding a fridge to put it in, I just left it outside the playing area. I probably could have just kept it inside the playing area. It was so bitterly cold for the first couple of days. So I've got this really vivid memory of playing there in that cold. But the final thing I wanted to touch on, and one of the absolute highlights, was I've managed to actually play a Bermuda Bowl, which is like the highest level tournament that you can actually play. I managed to come 15th in it, so a bit below halfway there. And in the pair rankings, me and my partner were basically completely flat, almost minus 0.06 imps aboard there. So tiny margin below negative. And this is like a really, really tough event. But I do have a memory of this hand here. And you don't often pick up 9-4 hand shapes. And how would you try and handle this? So I decided to walk the dog. And this is where you sort of underplay the hand. And my goal was just to try and get doubled on it. So I just opened one heart. And my partner actually supported hearts. I have 9 of them. I'm like, well, there is just no way that the opponents will let us try and play this hand. So they bid 2 clubs, 2 hearts. They then bid 4 hearts, splinter. And here, I just made a very subtle pass. I'm not trying to show a good hand. And I went 5 clubs. I went pass. I'm like, you know what? Okay, 5 hearts. Then they pushed on to 6 clubs because obviously they've got lots of points. My partner's a weak hand with heart support. It feels like they could maybe make 7 of something, but I bid 6 hearts and we got doubled. And my partner had the perfect cards, the ace of spades and the 10 of spades. And I managed to find the queen of spades here. So we managed to get doubled and get a nice handy pickup there. So it's not often that you get to walk the dog in a Bermuda Bowl, but a nice memorable hand. So these were some of my results over the years. And since 2017, I haven't really been playing too much competitive bridge. But I did look up where was I actually ranked in the world at the moment. And here in equals 616th, here I am in the World Bridge Federation Open rankings. So this is a bit about my journey and what I've succeeded with bridge over the years. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.